Hello and welcome back to Surviving to Thriving. I am Tammy, your host and guide, and we talk about everything high sensory here, everything to help you move from struggling and feeling like you just don't want to be sensitive anymore to really loving being in your own skin and recognizing the amazing things that can come from being highly sensing. And I am so excited today. I have a special guest. My friend Terri is joining us. And first, I want to just go ahead and introduce you, and then we will hear your lovely voice and everything that you have to help us out with. So Terri Crosby is a consultant, author, and speaker who has coached individuals and couples about life and relationships for the last 40 years. That's very impressive. She helps people who love each other get along. And I mean, what greater thing is that? That sounds amazing. She is author of 100 Words, Small Servings of Whimsy and Wisdom. I just love that title. A book of poetry and photography, which explores change, relationships, grief, creativity, and nature. Her second book, How to Save Your Fourth Marriage, One Person Can Transform a Relationship, is for anyone seeking to improve or deepen an intimate relationship. And in it, she presents 5 core skills for making changes, which are useful for any type of human connection, of course. And on the show notes, there's a link there for her website. And of course, you can email her at the website, Terri at her website. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much.
It's been fun being on your show, and now you get to be on my show, and we get to talk about relationships, which
we do. I like it.
Yeah. So would you just share a little bit about you, who you are, what are you doing, and then how did you decide to do what you're doing, and did you just take that direction yourself, or did it just kind of show up and come to you?
Who am I and what am I doing? That is the question of the decade or the century. Anyway, as you said, I work with people. I just did a fun class this morning with a group of 5 women, and it's a little series I'm doing called Summer Porch Talks. And so we take this deep, wonderful subject. Sometimes this morning it was about perception, and how perceptions guide conclusions that we come to, which guide outcomes. So if you don't like the outcome, go back to your perception and see if you could see it differently. So we talked about that, and we talked about touch. Just getting enough, having too much. When should you have it? When should you not? I mean, just all kinds of things. So I do classes and I do private sessions. So in person here in Asheville, I'm near Asheville. And so I do in-person classes, Zoom classes, and also Zoom sessions with people, individuals and with couples. And I literally fell into this. It came to me. It was a subject I was really interested in, but I was in this acting class in LA. And people so how you sit in a circle and you talk about the business of acting or whatever it is you're talking about and helping each other. And people kept taking me aside on the breaks and saying, do you talk to people for a living? And nobody had ever asked me that, but 3 or 4 or 5 people, they would just kind of take me aside at each class. And finally, I just went, maybe I should do this. I don't know anyway. So that's how I started my consulting practice. One day I said, yes, I do. I do this for a living. Would you like to come see me? And we didn't have Zoom in those days. So everybody came to my office. So I had to get it together and have an office. And that's how it started. Yeah.
And over 40 years later, you're still doing it. So what keeps you loving working with people and focusing on relationship?
It's a subject that fascinates me and I'm always interested in. So that's one thing. That's kind of if there's a sustaining thing. I heard somebody once say how, if there's something that you would do for free, that's probably the thing you're best at. So I kind of I decided that was that was a good idea. And what was your other question? Oh, so I keep doing this also because it is such joyful work. You know, people come in with heavy burdens. People come in with lots of miscommunications and struggles, and he doesn't understand me or she doesn't understand me, and they don't feel seen and heard, or they don't feel safe, or they don't feel something, you know, something kind of big and basic. And they're incredibly serious about it, as well they should be. You know, if you're not getting, sometimes that's just where you land, is in seriosity. So they bring that and they kind of dump it on the table, so to speak. And but within, you know, and it depends on the couple or the individual, within 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, my goodness, there's so much. They're willing to play rather than fight, or they're willing to be light about something that they were really serious. I just find that thrilling. And so I keep doing it.
And so do you see more people individually to focus on relationship, or the couple, or the two parts of the relationship together?
It's kind of half and half right now. Often it's that way.
Mm-hmm. And what do people focus on most when they come, you know, when they finally decide it's time to talk with somebody? What is it that they're looking for?
Number one is always communication. Yeah. You know, misinterpreting what someone else means by what they did or what they said. Mm-hmm. That's, I would say that's absolutely the number one thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and translating is my specialty. I sometimes I do this thing called mouse in the corner with couples, and
on the wall.
It's like fly on the wall. Yeah. And so I don't do it right away, but or sometimes I have done it with the person who's coming in new. If they can watch me work with their partner, then they can see that everything is safe and they don't get blamed for things, and they don't, you know, that person, their partner, is held accountable. Mm-hmm. And so it makes it really safe. It's like, oh, good, I'm not being blamed. I'm not, it's safe here. I can talk. Mm-hmm. And and then people kind of see by example that, you know, it's going to land in your lap anyway. You know, whoever's doing the question asking is the one who's responsible. That's what I do.
It's such a fascinating arena with, and I don't typically work with couples. I mean, I will start working with someone and then say, you know, if you ever want to bring, you know, your other half in or whatever, it's totally fine. And then they usually have their own stuff going on or whatever, and it doesn't usually happen. But we'll, you know, talk about that kind of stuff. And one of the things that pops up, I mean, I remember someone I was working with not too long ago, his tendency was always to say, well, you know, my wife thinks blah, blah, blah. And so I would always start by saying, and how do you know that?
Yes.
And then the stuff that comes up was all of these assumptions and, you know, old patterns of, well, because when she does this, she means this. I'm like, and how do you know that? And, you know, we'd have that discussion of,
yeah,
of, you know, well, this is what I see. Okay. And then we have to look at the other side and say, and let's just guess what she might be seeing. And sometimes it's like this realization, like, maybe I don't know. Maybe
yeah,
I'm guessing, maybe I'm making an assumption based on, you know, whatever. So yeah, it's such a communication itself. It just is so fast. I mean, it is so key, and it's so fascinating how we can get derailed or have these, you know, misconceptions. And I wanted to bring up the fact that, you know, since I work with highly sensing people, it's that much more of a prevalent thing that we have a tendency to make these assumptions of what other people are doing, especially since we look at something that someone says or does, and to us, we would never, ever consider doing such a thing. And so it means somehow from our programming or our beliefs, you know, system, that it's disrespectful or hurtful or purposefully, you know, fill in the blank, that they're, you know, these people are just being so something that's not working, right? And
Yes.
helping them to see that that's both sides is so important. It's like, well, so this person is wired differently. We're both wired differently. And so they're seeing things from a completely different place, but it feels like that to you because of that meaning, right? So
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about just that importance of seeing those two sides and recognizing that, I mean, whatever, direction you want to take with that, but that piece of recognizing that we don't know what that other person is thinking or feeling and where they're coming from, but we make those assumptions.
Well, the first thing to say about that is it's such a natural thing for anyone, highly sensing or not. It's such a natural thing to interpret other people through your own lens. I mean,
Well, it's all
why?
we have.
It's all, yeah, until there's more. Until you, so I think one of my superpowers is seriously is being able to hear and understand and validate the other side of the question. A wife will come in and think her husband is really, really wrong and the same words that you just used. He's disrespectful. I would never do that. And so she's really sure what he's doing and why he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's defending because that's just what he's doing. And he thinks she's being disrespectful because she's angry at him and not really communicating. And, so the translation thing is so magical. The what else could it be question. What else could it be? And what else could it be? One of the ways I saved my fourth marriage was asking myself that question, like, maybe I don't know, and I wasn't talking to a therapist then. I was actually doing this inside myself so I could figure it out because that's what I do. And it was absolutely, so I would be really sure about something. And then I would go ask Eric, my husband, and he would say, actually, that's not it. And it would just blow me away. And so I got really fascinated with the translation thing. And so what happens with couples, oh my gosh, they can fall back in love if they don't have those reasons to hate each other and disagree with each other. And, if what they're doing is grabbing hands and standing on the same side of the question, if I'm holding the hand of my partner and we are looking at that thing over there, okay, so here's what happens, and naming all the steps of what happens, and what do we see? What do we see about us, observing us, step back for a second and really be on the same team and look at that thing that happens. And so we figure out a lot of things that way.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
It's that kind of like objectifying, right? Seeing it as removing the personal piece of it. I mean, it's all personal, but
Observation.
That it's like, oh, okay, let's look at the whole picture, not just like the woundedness or the frustration, but saying, oh, okay, there's something going on here. It's got two different viewpoints, two different sides, but it can be seen in a way as, something to, it's like, okay, let's just address what this issue is instead of having someone feel attacked or needing to defend or whatever. And then they stop listening, right?
Yeah.
Feeling
So
attacked.
the magical thing that turns that around, I believe, is taking it, like you said, out of the personal, is stick with facts only. He said, she said, and not the interpretation of it, or not the rightness or wrongness. If you take the rightness and wrongness out of it. So one of my big things is, what if nobody's wrong? What if everybody's doing the best they can and this is what we've got? So the way to get the emotion out of it and the finger pointing and the frustration, and the hurt out is just do facts, just the facts, ma'am. It's stick with and so a lot of times people will start to sneak the interpretation back in, and then and then we catch it as a team, the three of us catch it, you know, and then we look at that thing again and go, okay, then what happened, and then what happened, and then what happened, and it starts to unravel.
And then
Yeah,
you get
that's
some of those aha moments where people start recognizing like the pattern, actually
yeah,
seeing what is really happening
yeah.
instead of
What's
just
going on?
that I have to protect myself or I have to make the
Yeah,
other person get it. And
yeah,
sometimes that doesn't happen. I mean, we're not going to always get it from our own perspective. I mean,
yes,
the other person, right?
exactly.
But it's that, oh, that recognition that, oh, we're seeing things from different places, but maybe our goal is actually the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and it usually is. It's usually in the same neighborhood. But you can't see it, like you said, if you're all up to your hip waders. And
And do you find that it's kind of the norm for most people to think that they're good listeners and until you start working through things and then recognize,
I would say yes.
oh, maybe I'm not really hearing that accurately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people think they're kind. I just was talking on the summer porch talk this morning, um, one of the women said, I'm a kind person, and my husband was mean to me. And here's what he did. And so she said a little bit, and then I kind of interrupted it a little. I mean, she didn't say a lot about it. And then I said, it's so interesting that one of the things that I would have said about myself in my first 3 marriages is that I was a kind person. I really believed I was a kind person. And in number 4, when it started falling down around my knees, that's something I really had to look at, because what I found out is that I wasn't in some places. And so as soon as I saw that and started to fix that, it just made the most amazing difference. It's interesting, if you actually are kind and somebody's mean to you and you're standing in kindness, it doesn't bother you, even when someone's being mean. But if you're being mean and veiling it and, lobbing something under in a sort of a veiled way against somebody else and pretending to be intellectually superior, that was my version of not being kind. You can intellectual wit can really pass for, that can really pass in certain circles, and being kind of quick-witted and but if you get right down to it, it's mean. So I had to really look at that, my part of myself. And so when I took that out of my repertoire, you might say, when I took that out, then people were actually kinder. My husband was kinder to me. He was like, wow, you're really different. I went, you're welcome. I like it better too. I like it better too. So yeah, that's one of the ways I saved my 4th marriage. Yeah.
Well, and you have your book about saving your 4th marriage.
I do.
There might be some people that are listening that might say, do I have to wait until I have a 4th marriage to get this all figured out? Or can I do something now?
I should have probably named my book How to Save Your 4th Marriage, or Your First One. Or your last one, or whatever. How to save your marriage and make it the last one, or something. It's really good for any relationship. And one of the things, any marriage, and one of the things that some friends of mine, this doctor in California read it, and he said, I find this information is really incredible for friendships I have. So it's actually really applicable to any type of connection, business, partnership, that kind of thing. So yeah. And
you can start working on all those things and becoming aware without having to wait for things to not work for a certain period of time. To say, oh, wait, let's make some changes.
Yeah, I
What
think
has-
it's really a good book to read for anybody who's in a good marriage as well, and to see what you're doing right and see what's working, and you go, yeah, we do that. That's good. It's very validating that way.
Mhm.
So that's another reason. Give yourself a pat on the back when you're doing a good job. Find the things that you do well. I think human intelligence is wired to find what it's looking for. And if you're looking for good things in your partner,
Mhm.
if you're really aimed that way, in race car driving school, they teach you that when your hands are on the wheel and a corner is coming up, you don't look at the brick wall behind the corner. You turn
Not
your
where you want to end up.
what?
That's not where you want to end up.
No, if you look at the brick wall, you will end up in the brick wall, because in school, in race car driving school, they say is that your hands follow your eyes. So if your eyes are looking where you want to go, your hands naturally turn you in that direction. And I've talked to race car drivers, and they say that's just incredibly, it's like a life lesson. If you just look where you want to go, then your actions. So the translation in relationships is if you keep your eye on where you want to go and what kind of a relationship you really want to have and how you want your communication to be, and you just keep your eyes faced, that way, then your actions support that, which is, I can tell you that made such a difference in my, so I talk about that, not in that particular way, but just in terms of keeping your eye on the positive, or your eye on where you want to go, looking for the good stuff. You will find what you're looking for in your partner.
Mhm.
There's another
And you
saying about,
find then being able to appreciate,
yes,
right, and be grateful for those things, because and
yeah,
then just like anything in life, where your attention goes, energy flows.
yeah,
Start to notice things, and then you see more of those things,
yeah,
and then you have more appreciation and gratitude, and then the universe just takes over and says, oh, we'll make more of those things, because that's where your energy is going. And so you notice them
yeah,
more, and then they're more likely to happen. Like when you said that your husband said, oh, you're different,
yeah.
that's going to ultimately change his behaviors somewhat, a little bit or a lot, depending,
It
right?
changed a lot.
He's getting more of what he needs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another mentor of mine said, here's an example of turning your eyes in the direction of what you want to find more of. She said, it's not whether, she was talking about men. I think it was a class of all women, and she was talking about men. And she said, it's not whether or not a man is generous. The question is, how is he generous? So if you find the ways in which he is naturally generous, and it could be something that you wouldn't even look for, naturally, you wouldn't. But if you start looking for how is he generous, then you'll find that answer. And that was so helpful to me. How is he generous? Not is he or is he not, but how. And can you appreciate that? Yeah.
And that appreciation, so key for all relationships, but I mean life in general, but especially in relationships. And
Yeah.
with highly sensing people, it's very common in relationships for us to do more for others than for ourselves, and to not be really clear about what it is that we want or need, and allowing things to go beyond what's helpful, and get in this place where we're not like honoring ourselves, and really asking for what we need, and making sure that happens, and then having that dialogue about how to make that happen, or how to help that along. So I'm wondering if that's a pretty common theme for what you see in working with people, with relationships, and with couples in particular, that there would be one that tends to not honor and really make their needs known. In their head, of course, they know exactly what they want. Well, sometimes not, but when they are clear about what they want, they don't necessarily forecast that in a way that's heard. And so there's a lot of, frustration. So
There's kind of a bunch of different things in that mix that you just mentioned, at least my experience of it, which is that thing about seeing other people through our own personal lens. I'm not calling myself highly sensing, but let's say I don't know that I'm that way, or I wouldn't think to call myself that way. So I just look at other people through that lens of however I am, whatever the label is. So there's that about just seeing others through the lens of my own personal lens. So there's that. But there's also this thing that has to do with estrogen versus testosterone. Testosterone is all about independence. Estrogen is about connection. If there's a couple of books, Dr. Luann Brizendine, she's got a whole string of qualifications, all the best goals and all the best appointments. And she wrote The Male Brain and the Female Brain, two different books. And so she talks about estrogen as being the way we connect, that's all about connection and keeping relationships and doing that kind of thing. And testosterone is about independence and accomplishment, self. It's more of that. And then there's the whole thing about survival, and our inner caveman and cavewoman. Mm-hmm. And so as a feminine being, I start out here with my, I have a great big circle. I'm concerned about the world and the oceans and the planets and the stars and I kind of start out there. And as I have time, I come into my, and then my family and my job and everything. And then I finally get back to me personally. So the feminine has an orientation that starts out here. Well, guess what the masculine is? The exact opposite. Starts here, take care of this, and then move out as you become available. So you start with yourself. And so women and men, masculine and feminine, and everybody's got a balance. So it doesn't have to do with men and women so much. It has to do with masculine and feminine and the balance in us about that. So that's in the mix too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just realized we could talk about this for a long time, but we only have our 30-minute slot today. So we're going to have to wrap up. So, okay. So many of these things are pertinent for highly sensing people or not. Just all of these great things are just always such good, just such good information. And I appreciate all of the different, nuances of situations that you experience and that you shared with us. So if you could pick just one little nugget that people can take away with them about relationships from today, what would you just have them keep top of mind, or to remind themselves every once in a while to help their relationships flow more harmoniously?
So this one just came in. It just popped in the space, which is if you're in pain about something, it means that the space how you're looking at something is too small. That, to me, that causes pain. Like the window, maybe you're looking through a keyhole instead of a picture window, or instead of, an open, no hindrances at all. So if you're in pain, you're thinking too small or looking at something in too small of a way. And this is something I do all the time with people. Just what else could it be? What else could it be? What else could it be? Just keep opening the window, pull back the curtains. And when you have more, so you can just see more. More options, more possible interpretations, there's a lot more freedom.
And not really holding on to that pain so much.
Yeah. If you don't really want the pain,
I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. And if anybody has any questions or whatever, they can reach out to you on your website.
Yes.
will be in the show notes,
Yeah.
or email.
Mhm. And the other thing, hearts only break open.
Hearts only break open.
Yeah. So if you have a broken heart, it can only break open, which is always
Oh.
a good, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, they can contact me on my website.
Awesome. Yeah. I so appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll make sure that that information is there so people can reach out. And thank you as always for joining me on Surviving to Thriving. And I look forward to connecting with you next time. And of course, you can always reach out and connect with me through my information on the show page. And let me know if you have any more questions also for Terri. So thank you so much. And we will see you again next time.